All right, we are going to continue on with availabilities today. We are now joined by Ryan Newman, driver of the number 31 Caterpillar Chevrolet. Ryan, talk about how this first practice went and your outlook for this weekend.
Well, first of all, I'll definitely have shorter answers than that last guy that was in here. I feel like we have a good Caterpillar Chevrolet. We were really good in race trim, not the best, but really good, and didn't get the ideal lap in qualifying. So I think we ended up 18th or something like that. But our car is much better than that, and I need to do a better job of driving it. So we'll see we'll prove what we have in qualifying here in the next couple hours.
All right, we'll go ahead and open it up to questions. Please state your name and affiliation. Start with Jared and then go to Dustin.
Jared Turner, FoxSports.com. Ryan, good to see you. I wanted to ask you about your understanding of NASCAR's policy regarding closed fists. It's an incident a couple of years ago where Casey Kane and Marcus Ambrose got into it. Both guys were penalized.
Casey Mears.
That's what I meant. Casey Mears, yeah, and Ambrose. What's your understanding of the policy, and were you surprised that there was not a penalty for the situation with Jimmy and Kevin last weekend?
My perspective of that is usually there's some kind of how does this sentence go? Any actions seem detrimental to NASCAR, we can do whatever we want to at any time. So closed fist or not, I think it all depends. I mean, if I went and just for instance was aggressive towards Danica, closed fist or not, would it matter? I mean, I don't know. I mean, there's so many different scenarios. The whole deal with Casey Mears and Ambrose, to me, was very unclear because you always have the right as a human, no matter what, to defend yourself in any form or fashion, in my opinion. And that, I thought, was something that you shouldn't get fined for, to defend yourself. So that, to me, was where some of it was unclear at Richmond a few years ago, or 2 years ago.
Just to follow up real quick, looking at the fact that the points leader after the regular season gets no tangible bonus going into the chase, do you think that's fair, and would you change that if it were up to you?
Say the first part again.
The points leader after the regular season gets no bonus by virtue of being the points leader going into the chase. It doesn't really reward consistency. So do you think consistency?
You're saying all the bonus points are for wins and not consistency.
Right.
It is what it is. Everybody's got a fair shot at winning or being consistent. Consistency might get you into the chase and not have a win to get the bonus points. So
right. Thanks.
All right, we'll go to Dustin.
The math's the same for everybody when the green flag drops in Daytona.
Dustin Long, NBC Sports. I have a couple questions. Ryan, a couple weeks back, NASCAR's talked about having like a potential procedural change. That's their phrasing of it for Talladega. And obviously, with the plate tracks, there's been a number of incidences on the green-white checkers. What would be your feeling toward a reduction, a change in the number of green-white checkers for a plate race?
Yeah, I don't know how you. I don't even know what the potential is for a procedural change. Two things for me for Talladega. The obvious thing is the goal of keeping the cars on the racetrack. In doing so, you have to slow the cars down so that they don't reach their liftoff speed in any direction that they go, forward, backwards, sideways, or whatever. And I think the second part of that is to give us the flexibility of keeping the cars lower. I mean, we're running old-style rules of ride height clearance and things like that. So as soon as the cars turn around, they want to come up. If you kept a car with the skirt sealed off and things like that, the back end wouldn't want to become airborne quite as easy. So I think there's a couple things that could be done from a safety standpoint for the drivers as well as the fans, and from what we've seen even at that point, the crew members and people on pit road too. So the cars, once they get airborne, are obviously out of control, and keeping that perspective of it, to me, is the most important part, way above and beyond any kind of procedural change.
And to follow up on that point, that's something that could be done between now and then.
Oh, absolutely.
That's a simple enough thing.
Yeah.
A second of all,
I mean, slowing the cars down is a no-brainer. If the cars are running, let's say 185 miles an hour, the likelihood, and it becomes exponentially better, that the cars would become less airborne. It's just like an airplane. An airplane has a liftoff speed with max flaps at 120 miles an hour, given a certain amount of load. A race car does the same thing going forwards and does going backwards. The more typically the more downforce it makes going forwards, the more lift it makes going backwards.
I know last week you had took advantage of the big restart, or everything kind of worked out. We were able to jump down to the bottom lane, gain a bunch of spots. Here, the bottom lane is a tough lane to really kind of hold position or gain positions. How do you do that here if you're stuck on the bottom lane on a restart at any point, but particularly late in the race? And how aggressive does one have to be to kind of
Well, I
force a
mean,
whip?
you don't want to mess your race car up, and you don't want to agitate somebody for the most part. So in the end, using 8 tires or 12 tires is your best option, or just having a good race car and keeping yourself in the right position. You typically don't want to be on the high side here, especially 3 wide, because our cars do not stick once they get outside of the upper seam there. That different transition in asphalt, there's really only, I'm going to say, 45 or 50 feet of the racetrack that we can use if it's 80 feet wide. And you do not want to get shuffled up into that. You're better off being on the inside and having something to lean on than being on the outside and being the guy that gets leaned on. Yep.
Additional questions for Ryan? We'll go here to Drew.
Ryan, Drew Bonner from the Concord Monitor. Can you just talk about the confidence for you and your team right now, considering how the chase went last year, the start this past week, and this being a track that has always been pretty good for you?
Yeah, I mean, to finish Chicago 11 spots better than we were last year was big. Confidence-wise, we've been building that throughout the year. We had a pretty big bump in the road there, and to be able to continue to build upon the things that we've done. Going back to the racetracks for the second time is a bonus, obviously, but when Luke came back from his suspension, we were going through the whole high drag, low downforce, different type of packages at different racetracks, on top of the fact of figuring out the 2015 rules package that we started out strong with, but kind of lost grips with about 8 races in. So we've from a confidence standpoint, last week was huge. We had a good car, and we were not going to finish that good. We were going to be 14th or so, and that last caution definitely helped with respect to that. But the hiccup there was we would have been not 14th had the previous caution not happened. So when we got caught having to do the wave around there, that changed our day.
Final questions. We'll finish up with Pat.
Pat Nicole, NASCAR.com. Ryan, you sort of went through a similar situation to Clint Boyer earlier in this year where you were without your crew chief for a few races. So what sort of pressure does that put on a race team, especially given now it's the chase?
Isn't his crew chief here? I'm pretty sure he's here. Yeah.
All right, well, if he wasn't, though, what would that have done? Just,
It would have been equivalent to you not asking that question if you wouldn't have been here. I mean, it has the potential to be a game changer, but in the end, it's a challenge for your team to be able to not have your quarterback and still be able to throw the ball. I mean, that's what it amounts to.
All right. Thanks for joining us, Ryan, and good luck this
Thank
weekend.
you.